to TC 911 Beyond the Call podcast. This is episode 10 of season 2, and I'm your host, Abbey Dudek, the communications coordinator at Tarrant County 911 District. And today we'll be hearing from Grand Prairie 911 Supervisor, Corina. Hello, Corina.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you so much for letting me come into your dispatch center and borrowing you to do this podcast.
Of course, I kind of threw myself into it, but
that's all right. I think we kind of surprise attacked you too when you guys were having your little recognition thing, and it was like someone said, "Oh, she just got promoted," and I'm like, "Oh, you want to do my podcast?" And then you couldn't turn around from there.
No.
There was nowhere for you to run. There was not a hole for you to crawl in. This was happening.
Yeah, but I love it. I'm here for it.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. So with that being said, how long have you been here at Grand Prairie 911?
I actually just hit 5 years in June.
All right. High five.
High five.
So there you go. Prior to us starting this podcast, I taught Corina what did I say? 2 high fives?
Yes.
When you have, she was, what did we talk about? Number
Episode
10.
10, yes.
Episode 10. And I was like, yeah, you're 2 high fives. Get it? 2 hand five. Yeah. Someone out there.
Took me a second.
Yeah. Someone out there is probably like, yeah, Abby, no one gets that. So you've been here for 5 years.
Yes.
Okay. And did you dispatch anywhere else, or is this your first? Okay. Where would you come from?
I actually worked at Dallas for 7 years prior.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is the first formal leadership title that I've had here with Grand Prairie.
Oh, excellent. So when you say that, did you have a leadership title, somewhat of a leadership title there?
Yes. So I was a trainer.
Okay.
And leadership in that capacity.
Okay. And did you move over, did you have to move over to this area for?
I did live in Dallas when I was younger. I pretty much grew up there in the Oak Cliff area. Mm-hmm. And then when I was 14, my mom bought a house over here in Grand Prairie. So I've been in Grand Prairie for almost 20 years now in terms of where I live. But I did apply for Grand Prairie. Actually, it was the first agency I ever applied for when I was 19.
Aww.
I had seen the post. Yeah, I was a little baby, but I had seen the post. It seemed like really interesting. The high school that I attended, it did not have anything that specified in 911, but it had 2 different law enforcement programs, and one was more government-based, one was more criminal-based. I was actually in the government program, which was more in line with being an attorney or, the judge, things like that. And then I did work at a law firm after high school, and then I realized I do not want to do that side of law. I actually don't like government law as much as I thought. I'm much more interested in the criminal aspect of it and law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So anywho, when I saw the post, I applied, but I did not make it that first round, and I was very, very, very sad. And then I went and worked for a corporate office, and then I saw the opening for Dallas about 2 years later. Made it through with Dallas, worked there for several years. I think I always kind of had Grand Prairie in mind, in the back of my mind, that's where I first applied. That's really where I wanted to work. But of course I was appreciative of the opportunity that Dallas gave me, and their setup is much more different though. Much more different. So for those that do not know, you either do call take or you do police dispatch. You do not do cross-trained consoles like we do here. So I was a call taker first, and then that's where I first trained. And then it's considered a promotion to move over to police dispatcher. Then I worked under police dispatch for a few years, and I actually did apply to train, but I was never a trainer as a dispatcher. I got the position because it's actually a promotion too over there. It's an actual title or position created by the city to be a trainer. But I was finishing school around that time, and because I was the least senior person to promote, the schedule that I would have had to have taken would not have allowed me to continue school, and I was about to finish my semester. So I turned it down, and I thought, well, I'll just come back to it. And then I ended up having another child, and whatever. I just never came back to it. And then shortly after that was when Grand Prairie had an opening again. And I thought, well, it's where I always wanted to work. I live there. The commute would be so much easier. And the city was starting to grow a little bit around that time. Now we've grown a lot faster. There was a lot of good things happening, and people that I knew that knew of the department had nothing but great things to say. I'm like, you know what? I'll try again. And it worked out that time.
Yeah.
And I think
now it's interesting because you have been talking about that you long ago when you were 19, you applied for here and then you went to Dallas. So have you always had an interest in the 911 aspect? Because you talked about your government side of it. Did you have like a moment where you thought, I want to do the 911 stuff like a lot, like really bad. I want to get in there.
I think it was just, like I said, I worked at the law firms and I realized government law is probably not what I want to do, but I knew I was still interested in law enforcement in some capacity. And when the position opened, I did kind of, just YouTube, like, what do they do? What is that really like? And looked it up a little bit, and it just seemed so incredibly interesting. And then when I was training with Dallas, even though I was hard on myself all the time and, self criticizing and wanting to be perfect, but my trainer, he told me, probably a week or two in, like, you're a natural, you're really good at this. And he's like, I know you're criticizing yourself and you want to do really well and you're worried about the things that, you're still working on. And he's like, but I can tell, like, you have it. You're a natural for this. And I'll never forget that, because I thought, oh, wow, that's so cool. And as the years, because in a few days I'll hit 12 years as a dispatcher, in general. And over the past 12 years, I have come to realize, sometimes people just need to have that, I don't know if it factor is the correct term, but it's like a certain thing you just need to have, for this job. And I've told people same thing in the academy when they say, what are you guys looking for? There's a lot of characteristics and skills that we look for, of course. There's certain things that you have to have, but I tell them too, you would be surprised at the different type of personalities that we have. There's not one specific personality that we look for or one specific type. There are skills and characteristics that you need to have, but I think sometimes you can be two totally different people, but just have that thing that you have to have.
You're still able to do the skills of the job. And the 911 industry, you're correct, is very diverse in the personalities that are in this industry. And that's really great. And yes, you're doing it all here. We do have agencies in Tarrant County that do the same thing that Dallas does. So where you have to promote and they do one side or the other and stuff like that. I would guess that you prefer doing it all since you've been here. I agree too. I actually would. I've never worked for an agency where you've just had to do one side of it. I've always worked at agencies that you did it all. You dispatch fire, you dispatch police, you were the go-getter. So what an amazing compliment. Is that trainer still there? Does he still work there?
In Dallas?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm almost positive he retired shortly after I left, because he had been in the profession for a long time already.
What a sweet memory to hold on with someone like that. I hope he hears this podcast, or if you have his information or something, be like,
that would actually be awesome.
I'll give you a little shout out, friend. There you go. That's nice.
No, but it is cool. And now being on the other side, of course, I've trained, I'm now a supervisor, and when you see it in someone, it's so cool.
Well, and only being here 5 years. Now, granted, you were lateral, you have experience and things like that. So you probably came in knowing, like, I want to move up the ladder. I want to be a supervisor. And tell me about that process. So, if someone is listening and wants to do a lateral move, or just kind of maybe coming off the street, fresh out of the box, not having any 911 experience.
So like I said, when I first came over, and it was great, but it was a little bit intimidating, because I'm like, wow, the things that they do here. I think too, I was in awe because there's just more skills to learn because of the way that the schedules work and, the way that the staffing is. So in Dallas, I knew how to do call take. I knew how to do police dispatch. But then here I learned about fire dispatch and I learned about NCIC. And so even though I had been doing it for so long, it was a little bit of just a moment where it was like, man, there's still so much more to learn.
Like a culture shock.
Yeah. But I was excited because I like learning new things. So for me, it was good. But I did know that I definitely wanted to pursue more leadership roles here. So when I became a trainer here, Sydney, our quality assurance coordinator, she had trained me on, I believe, 2 consoles. No, I'm sorry. She trained me on 1 console. She was supposed to train me originally when I first got here, but then I got moved. She's the one that had approached me about becoming a trainer here. And we had a need, but, she was telling me, when I trained you, I thought that you were a quick learner, et cetera, et cetera. She was giving me all these great compliments. And she said, I really, really think that you should put in for it. But I think one of the things that maybe other laterals struggle with, I don't know, but I know I struggled with, is knowing that I have the experience, but I'm new here. And it's intimidating.
Yes, I would agree. I too came from one agent out of state, and then went to another dispatch center here in the county, and you just know the thing that you're like, okay, I have experience, but yet this is a whole nother game here, another ball field here. So, I got to make sure that I do whatever their protocol is and everything like that. Cause you don't want to be the one that you don't want to say, well, at my other agency, we did this. Exactly. That's the golden rule of not to do. In fact, I don't think that's what anybody wants you to do at any job, is saying like what you did at your last job. Maybe in some degree, but yeah, in 911 land, nope. It's just on your resume, and that's where it'll stay.
And it's so difficult because I'm sure I was guilty of saying it, but it's never malicious. It's just like, wow, you start comparing.
Yeah, it's interest. Your interest peaks, and then you all you have is to compare it because you spent 7 years at Dallas, so that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and so I was a little bit intimidated to put in for trainer or CTO. And then as the time went on, I just thought, you know what, why not? I'll go for it. I was able to get fully trained a little bit faster just because I came in as a lateral. So once I felt pretty comfortable in my skill and being fully trained on everything, I told them, okay, I want to be a trainer. So the process for us is you put in a memo and you send it to your direct supervisor, basically expressing what qualifications you think you have for that role, why you want to do it. Just basically selling yourself, of course. And then from there, it gets moved up our chain of command to our manager, Aubrey. And then they make a decision on whether or not they'd like to put you in that title. And then after that, you go to CTO training from the district, from Tarrant County.
Oh, those people.
And so we get our CTO certification. And then once we're done with that, then we can start training. So I did train a few people. And then after I had been training for a little while, so this is a funny story. And if Janice listens to this, which I did reach out to her, she's retired now. But she knows how special this was for me. I guess a little bit of a similar story with the trainer that, gave me that nice compliment when I first started. But I did not want to apply for supervisor.
Really?
I did not. But I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I always want to excel. And if I don't feel like I'm excelling at my very, 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 very best, then I think someone else is going to think that, well, let me rephrase that. I still am a bit of a perfectionist, but I worked a lot on not being so hard on myself. And that has made a tremendous change in how I am as a leader. But they were also creating a team lead position at the same time that Janice decided to retire. So the team lead position was completely new. You're under a supervisor. Essentially, you're an assistant supervisor in a sense. But because I knew it was being created, I thought, well, I have to follow this specific order. Now I'm a CTO, so it just makes sense for the next thing to be team lead. If that's what they're creating, why would I jump, quote unquote, directly to supervisor when I need to earn that right, in a sense? Again, those feelings of I'm new here.
You'd be surprised. I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, we are so much alike. Like it's very common. I feel that it's very common. So it's it does happen to beat yourself up and everything. It does happen, but I'm glad that, and I'm also working on that too, of not trying to put myself down and being like, oh, come on, what are you doing? What are you thinking? So I totally get that. I'm actually commend you for saying like, hey, I'm getting better at this, but
thank you.
that's it's really surreal, and you're just like, well, why would I jump that? I need to do this and deserve.
Yes.
That's your mindset though is very fair.
Yeah,
you're very fair to others, because that's a very fair statement, because you're like, well, someone else get that moves up from the team lead job. So I know exactly what you're thinking.
And because team lead was brand new at the time, we didn't have any team leads, but I just thought, well, maybe someone who's senior or something of that nature. So what happened was I approached Janice one day when everybody knew she was going to retire. I think her retirement was probably a week away, and they had just opened both positions. And she asked me, she had been my supervisor at one point, but she was no longer my supervisor because she had moved to day shift. And I just went to go tell her, hey, congratulations. Are you excited? Et cetera, et cetera. And she said, are you going to apply for my position? And I laughed and I said, no, why would I do that? And she said, what do you mean, why? And I said, no, I'm going to apply for team lead. I need to follow this specific guide. I need to be this first and that first and, move up the ladder the correct way. So I thought. And so she said, well, you know, I was your supervisor at one point, and I'm telling you, I think you got it. Like, I think you should apply. And then I told her, I don't know. And the way that we did that promotional process was because team lead was new, we were allowed to apply for both.
Oh, okay.
And then you could either get one or the other or none at all, you know, depending on how it went. So she said, but you can apply for both. Why not just do it?
Yeah, why not?
And that stuck with me. And I said, well, to her, I just said, I don't know. But then I went home and thought about it. And I'm like, man, she has a point. Like, why not? So I did. And once I was in it, I'm like, oh no, this is mine. I got to have it now.
Not the team lead, the supervisor position,
yes.
right? Okay.
Which I would have been happy with team lead too. Mm-hmm. And I got it. And
here you are.
Yep.
Because you've had the role for how long now?
For almost 2 years. So I was promoted about 3 years in.
Okay. So why do I think you were newly promoted?
I think because we were discussing the fact that I was new to the floor.
Oh, so that's where I got confused.
Yeah.
Because I know you worked. I know most people work and stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't know when people get promoted and stuff like that. There's only 700 of y'all, so I can't keep track of everybody's accomplishments.
So I promoted November 2021.
Okay.
But the normal or traditional, I would say the traditional thing that they do is when a supervisor promotes, they put them in the administrative role for a year. And I really like that because it kind of eases you into it. Mm-hmm. But also there was so much about the administrative aspect of our job that I just had zero clue, especially when you're working night shift most of the time. You're not privy to a lot of these things. So it definitely informed me a lot about the background work that goes into it when you start talking about budgets and why we're selecting training and things of that nature. And during that time, I wasn't over a specific shift, but I was over the professional development unit, which does all of our quality assurance. And that really helped too, knowing how we got into these contracts with these specific outside third parties and, you know, what their history is and why we value them and just a lot of things I didn't know.
You're referring to a company that helps you with quality assurance on your calls. Okay. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure that, well, one, I understand it. Yes. And two, our friends at home understand it too, because I didn't know that. I didn't know how, you know, everybody does quality assurance a different way, so I didn't know how that happened here in the 911 Communication Center here at Grand Prairie.
Yeah, and we have our professional development unit that does some of the Q as well, but there's just such a large number that has to be done that we outsource some of it too. And I think it kind of helps keep it more objective. You know, if it's not somebody that you know, then people may not feel like, oh, they scored it this way because they know me, you know.
That's a really good point. That is a really good idea.
And so it really helped me understand a lot of the background, you know, that I really did not have a lot of information on that before. So I like that has been the traditional thing that they do. And
now let me ask you this now on calls and doing the tasks here, because you know you wear a headset, you know, you did the admin thing and you're back on the floor and you obviously work a console and stuff. Do you see a difference in the types of calls that you get here versus Dallas, or would you say they're similar?
I would say that they're similar. However, the callers themselves are different. I don't know if it's because Dallas has such a high population, which we're kind of heading that direction too. The city's growing. We have a lot of tourism. There's just a lot more people here during any time of the day, really, but mostly during the day. When I came over here and the callers were, you know, just a little bit more understanding, they give us a lot of compliments. Like, I think too, it has to do with a lot of the community policing that we have in Grand Prairie.
Yeah, Grand Prairie has a really good community camaraderie.
Yes, and so they've built those relationships with the community. So a lot of the times the callers will tell us, thank you so much for what you do. Oh, I understand. Like, they're so nice, you know?
What's your favorite thing about being a 911 headset hero? I'm interested because of your personality. I want to know what you're going to pull out of your bag.
My favorite thing is that I'm bilingual.
That is a great thing. Oh, that's so nice. I always tell people that apply, I'm always like, hey, if you're bilingual, you should apply.
Yeah.
That would be great. I mean, everyone should apply. Right. But that's even great. We do have language translation services that we provide to you all and things like that. But having someone that's bilingual right there, it's very helpful, especially if it's something like you have to do a quick transfer or something like that, if it's in another city, or if you can understand if it's a medical problem or whatnot. I'm slowly but surely learning Spanish. So any tips I will totally take. I'm using the Duolingo, and it's really fun and easy because I'm very creative, so I have to educate myself by pictures and stuff. In my channel, my inner 10-year-old. But I'm slowly but surely learning it. But I have a long way to go. I get a little intimidated because I hear people talking Spanish, and I'm like, I don't think I'll ever get to that level. It sounds so fun though. Yeah, I want to have fun.
So Spanish was my first language.
Okay.
My mom immigrated before I was born, and she holds her citizenship, but for her it was very important that we know Spanish first, because she was always told that if you teach your kids Spanish first, then they can learn English in school, which was 100% correct. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had done, because my kids are not fully bilingual and it eats me up every day.
Oh, your kids speak English?
Mostly, yes.
Oh, okay.
They rarely speak Spanish. They understand it, but they rarely speak it. And I know that that's on me, but sometimes I tell them, oh my God, I just wish you spoke it fluently. And, I'll do some funny stuff with them, and I'll say, like, today you can't ask me for anything unless you ask it in Spanish. They're
there you
go. They're like, well, I'm like, figure it out.
And now Duolingo is free, so you could get them. Do they have phones? Or are they that age?
My son does.
See, there you go. So, get them that owl. And have you seen their TikTok either? They're so funny.
Yes, they're very funny.
Oh my gosh.
Their marketing or social media or whatever it is, they're very involved.
Their costume. I can't say that the cell phone Sally costume can do some of the activities that this owl does, because she got T-Rex arms.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of limited.
No, but I have told my son stuff like that. But yes, so Spanish was my first language though, and I learned English in school. And so of all my siblings, I'm the one that is still the most fluent, but I think it's because I started 911 12 years ago. And so the difficult thing is my mom understands English very well. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy for us just to speak it to her because she understands us. But I practice it so much at work that I'm the most fluent out of all my siblings.
Oh, gotcha.
But, even at that, though, there are still, over the years, some terms that I've learned, just because with Spanish, there's many different variations of Spanish. Mm-hmm. And so I'll hear things, I'm like, man, I had no idea that this was slang for that. Or, I've learned some words here and there. But
that's me with just English. I hear all the stuff that all the kids are saying nowadays. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot of short phrases, a lot of abbreviations for words instead of saying the words just like in the full sentence or something. I'm like, what does that mean? Oh, it means this. Oh. And then they tell you, like, they look at me like I'm an idiot. I mean, maybe I'm just getting older. I'm just not getting it.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
Appreciate the support on that.
It's difficult, man. The generation is just so different. But anywho, so for me, like, it's always been really just special to be able to help the Spanish-speaking citizens. And I think a lot of it, too, is the fact that because of the different policies or laws that they have in Mexico, a lot of people think that, or people that are from Mexico, they think that things that are illegal in Mexico are illegal here in the U.S. Or because the police is so corrupt in Mexico, they think it's the same here.
Oh.
And so beyond translating, that's why I really am trying so hard to get Grand Prairie back into the public education, which we just had an event. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it is being able to educate them. And that is the part that I love the most, because it's like, especially when I get to have that face-to-face and I get to explain, like, no, that's not illegal. You are in your right to do this. You're in your right to do that. We're not working against you. Even when their kids call 911 by accident, they think that they're in so much trouble. And I'm like, no, you're not, and just being able to get them to understand how everything works. It's like a lot of times you can just see the relief on their face where they're like, oh, that's not what that is. I'm not in trouble for this. I'm not in trouble for that. And that is really my goal. Like, my number one thing that I have in mind right now is just being out there more and being able to educate them. And it's not just the Spanish speaking community. Yeah. There are a lot of people that think that too, and are English speaking, but just being able to educate them so that when they call us, they can help us help them.
Yeah. And it's so important for you as a 911 dispatcher to be out in the community. I'm a huge cheerleader, as you know, that I want you guys out there. I want all 911 dispatchers to be out there if they can, because you all know the ins and outs. You already have that vibe of when that phone call comes. You already have that emotion that you hear from the call taker. So when you're out in the community, you're just putting a face on it. And then you're able to educate them, and then they get to see you. They get to see that this is an actual human being. She's got a great personality. She's bilingual. She can talk to my kids and me about stuff that I need to know. And being able to put that connection in, it's kind of to people, it could be taken as the softer side of public safety because you're not a police officer.
Right.
So it's a soft way to be like, hey, let's introduce you into how public safety is here to help you in this, and Grand Prairie is here to help you, and not, you don't have nothing to be scared about no matter where you came from. So I love that you're wanting to go back out there more and things like that. So
yeah. And that sigh of relief too on the phone. I mean, it's also this, along the same lines. Sometimes, the moment that they like, you speak Spanish, and you say yes, they're like, okay, they're able to communicate.
Do you have any favorite funny calls?
Ooh,
there's always one. You can censor it as much as you can. Well, you're going to have to censor it as much as you can.
Man,
there's always one, maybe one or two that stand out. Select one.
I don't know why. I mean, I guess this is...
Maybe it could be funny to you, or maybe it was in the moment, because you could always preface it as this was in the moment.
I don't know why I can't think of one off the top. Not my call, but I will say the other day we had a call that I did not take.
That's fair.
And it was a medical emergency. And the woman was telling our dispatcher, the patient, she was saying that she had something that was bothering like her abdominal area, that there was something possibly in her pelvic area, but just very vague, very, very vague. And then when the paramedics got there, she was delivering a baby.
Okay, that's going to give you some abdominal pain.
But she did not give any information at all about a baby. None. Zero.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, congratulations to her. So no delivery on the phone?
No, I think she may have ended up delivering with the paramedics, but it was just so odd because the way she was describing it, you would have never thought that this was anything pregnancy related.
Was she completely like cool as a cucumber on the phone about it?
She wasn't necessarily cool as a cucumber, but she just wasn't making it seem like it was for sure a baby or really that big of a deal.
Like she's just kind of like, I'm having abdominal pain, my pelvic hurts, this hurts, but didn't say anything like I'm pregnant.
Well, and then I think at one point she may have said like, I have something stuck like near my pelvic or
lower area and stuff. Yeah.
And she said something stuck.
But she did not. Wow. Okay.
But the paramedics said she was very obviously pregnant. So that was, I mean, it was funny to us just because we're like, why would she not want to give that information? That's so odd.
You guys didn't know that until obviously the paramedics updated you.
Yes.
So that's also a thing, folks, is that a lot of times these dispatchers, that they'll get calls and things, but sometimes they don't. They have to get it from their fellow first responders on what happened after. So clearly what happened here is they got the information and then they updated you and told you she was having a baby.
Other than that, I would probably say some of the funnier calls, and I don't remember specifics right now, or of course sometimes the kids,
is it the 911 hang-ups?
No, it's the prank calls.
That's a 911 hang-up.
Well, they're not really a thing anymore, though. I feel like with the way that technology is so advanced, kids don't do like what we did when we were younger.
We'll find you.
And not just that, but I think kids were so bored in the previous generations. They were calling 911 and doing pranks because they were bored. Now there's so much to entertain them. But
now they need to just know that you can text your emergency to 911.
But I feel like I definitely got way more of the intentional prank calls when I worked at Dallas, just because it was a different time, not because of the city necessarily.
Oh, right. I guess, you know what? That's a really good point. I think you're right. Because I got more prank. They just get the phone and they don't think that you can but when track they would, that or find that information.
You can hear them giggling and actually saying like, this happened.
I had some. I had one, and it was a 911 only phone. Mm-hmm. So for those at home, it's a phone that has no service, like AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile. So those phones can still call 911, FYI. So these kids, you can hear them giggling in the back, and then they dialed 911, and I said, what's your emergency? And then they just said, you smell like a fart. And then they hung up. I had been working my shift for, I'd probably been there like 10 hours, so it's probably true. That's probably a bit gamey, no. But so it's just stuff like that. And you know what? did I get mad? I mean, don't do this at home, but
Right.
but did I get like, I was kind of like, okay, that was kind of funny. That was a first for me in my 8 years of wearing the headset, that someone said I smell like a fart. So that happens. But anyway, they can be funny and entertaining.
Yeah, of course we don't want them to do it, but sometimes they do say some stuff that's really funny, or maybe they're not even intending to prank call, but they're calling for something that they think they need to call 911 for.
Yeah, maybe some things that are a little embarrassing that they don't want to share. I completely understand that. That's, I'm not going to share it, but I have a couple in my head that I've had the joy of taking calls. I mean, everyone was fine. Everyone was safe. Just didn't think of the longevity of how to get themselves out of certain predicaments. So it does happen. You do hear it all. You do hear every 911 dispatcher should just write a book, or we should collaborate a book of all different stories, and just see, this book would be huge.
Yeah. And I think people are always shocked to hear, because of course when people find out what I do, they don't necessarily ask what's the funniest, but they'll ask like, what's interesting calls, or calls that the public would never think you guys get.
So a lot of times, do you get people that say like, what's the saddest thing you've ever taken?
I get that a lot too.
That is the number one question. What's the saddest thing you've ever? Well, I don't want to share that. Yeah. I don't even like sharing it on this podcast, because it's just, I tell people too, I'm like, read the story, read online news, watch the news. These tragedies that happen, they start with a 911 call. Yes. And so someone has to take that first initial call and get that process going. So when you see it, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't even make the news that everyone hails, because we live in a huge metroplex. There's so much stuff going on. It's never boring. It's never dull. There's job security. You're going to be good. What do you see for yourself now, and this is going to be a good question, because now that I know how your work ethic and your mind goes with it, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Watch out, Aubrey. She's coming for your job.
You know what? When I did the administrative role last year, I worked hand in hand with Aubrey a lot. Mm-hmm. So that was another good thing with being freshly promoted and kind of having her leadership and having her next to me. And I did say this to her once. I said, I do not envy your job at all.
She does a lot.
She does. And I know that that's just because of her work ethic and the type of person that she is, because a lot of these things are things that she wants to do, not things that are necessarily required of her.
Right.
She wants to be involved. She wants to fight for 911. She wants to be on boards and make an impact and, things like that. So I told her, I don't know that I would ever be doing everything that you're doing.
You don't want to be on our district board?
I'm not saying that I don't want to.
No, I'm just teasing. We would love to have you. We would never know.
But I told her, man, sometimes, I told her getting to work with you like side by side and seeing everything that you do, it's like, wow, that is so much. I don't even know how you handle it all. So in 5 years, I don't know. I don't know about manager, but for sure I want to keep growing in whatever capacity that is. So like one thing I did this year that was a goal of mine, probably for the past like 2 years, is I did basic instructor.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Sophia from Tarrant County 911 helped me, and I went and observed, and she got me all the material for the Spanish for telecommunicators. And so the goal by the end of the year, we have so much going on right now that it's been kind of put on the back burner a little bit, but the goal by the end of the year is for me to be teaching Spanish for telecommunicators in-house here.
Oh, that'll be fabulous. You'll do so great at that. So great at that. That's so amazing.
But I would say, given that now that I have that certification, probably in the next 5 years, if Aubrey is not retired and I'm not gunning for it for that position,
no pressure,
then I definitely want to be teaching more courses for sure. I enjoy the teaching aspect of it too. Mm-hmm. So whether that's internal just for us, or whether it's outside, whatever that looks like.
I don't know, maybe at the district we might have another training. Watch out, Elena and Sophia. She's coming for it.
Well, Sophia did tell me, she's like, I would love to see you teach the Spanish. So she had offered to when we get the first class going, to help me if I needed help. So she was great with it.
That would be wonderful.
But and of course Elena too. She had a lot of good feedback when I did the the class for the certification. She had a lot of good feedback too.
They make a heck of a team there.
Yes.
So they'll guide you the right way. I have no doubt on that. But you can't be gunning for their jobs, though, man. Okay, that's not how we.
No, I'll just help. I'll just help from time to time.
I'm just teasing. But you can always put it in the back of your mind.
Well, I went to the new instructor workshop too, and there was a few people that did the basic with me, and they did encourage us, though, of course, not to go for their jobs, but to help whenever we can. And they told us we're always looking for somebody to come in and assist and teach, and so they very much encouraged us to ask questions and see what we're interested in, and maybe we can teach a course, even if it's just once a month, whatever that looks like, whatever works for us.
Well, that's the great thing about this industry, especially how the path that you're taking is there are going to be, in the next 5 years, there could be so many different avenues that open up because, like you say, your city's growing, other entities are growing and things like that. So you never know. But I know definitely, I have no doubt that in 20 years, you're going to be retiring from the 911 world.
Oh, yeah. I was actually talking to my mom, and this is something so funny that I always say, because when people find out what I do, they always ask me, are you not an emotional person? Because how do you not get, I think in their brain, they think.
I've never heard I've never heard anybody, you're not an emotional person.
Oh, I've had a lot of people ask me that, but it's a question. It's not like an assumption.
No, it's just interesting.
Because they correlate it with, if you know how to stay calm and you're not freaking out after these calls or crying or whatever the emotion is, then you must not be that emotional, because how else would you handle that? And I always tell them, no, the funny thing is I'm very sensitive and I'm very emotional. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying when I say, I guess you can call it the it factor in 911, when people just have it or just understand the role. Because I told them, there's a lot of things outside of my job that you would never think I do my job because of the way I do the traits that I have. So, like, for example, I talk a lot. I love to talk. Yeah, you would think if you like to talk a lot, you would work in a call center in some fashion.
You do.
Yes. And I'm like, but I said, it's so funny because you would also think that maybe people that work in this don't talk as much, because when we're dealing with callers and we want them to give us the information of what's going on in the moment, and they start going off into la la land, and they're telling us what's happening, and then it kind of goes off to something like completely different. Yeah. We have to always bring them back. And so I always tell them, you would think that with me working like that, my brain would have switched and I wouldn't want to go off on tangents, and I would always want to just be straight to the point, no details, just get what you need to get, or say what you need to say, and that's it. But I'm not. I always go off on a tangent. I always want to say every detail. I always go back to 5,000 stories that link up to this one story that I was telling you.
That's okay. So, you've done really good during this. Usually you kept me off the tangent thing, because I'm the one that steers off the road.
But I have that characteristic. I'm like, and I'm emotional, and I guess you would, and I'm a sensitive person. You might think you're not because of the way that you handle the calls, but I always tell them, I don't know what other way to explain it other than you just know you need to do what you need to do. But there is no room for me to be frustrated when they're frustrated, cry when they cry. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I need to be in control of the call. I need to be the one helping them. But I'm like, it's like a little switch that turns off, because the call can be heartbreaking. And I'm not saying that you have to have a suck it up buttercup mentality, because I do feel like that's what 911 used to be. I think we've gotten away from that. But, if you need a moment, get up by all means, do what you need to do.
You can't be emotional you can't be someone's lifeline. Like if I call 911 and I'm on you answer my call and I'm completely a disarray because my relative is, passed away next to me or something, or not breathing or stopped breathing. I can't have my lifeline freaking out on the other. Like that's it. You're it.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm like, excuse me, are you okay?
Yeah.
So I get that. Yeah. You definitely can't have that on the phone. But you're right. That is such a great way of explaining it. It's an automatic switch, and then once it turns off, you're like, okay. Now I'm going to marinate in this. And usually it's always, how did I handle this call? And then it goes into the emotion of what the caller had to deal with. That's a wonderful way that you just explained that.
And I was telling them too, like, even if the call was very, very difficult, and I would say in 12 years, there's probably only a handful or less of calls where I have had to get up, but that's not because I expect everyone to just be able to handle everything all the time. But I do tell people it surprises me that I don't normally need to get up. I can just move on to the next thing because I am a sensitive person. I'm sensitive at heart. A lot of things make me cry that probably shouldn't make me cry.
Well, that's okay. You're such a well-rounded, great representative for this industry.
Well, thank you.
You have a lot of strengths, and I love everything that you've shared with us. And thank you for even sharing your behind-the-scenes personal, things too. But all of that, I always say you never know who's out there that could be listening, and you can inspire someone else to take the same path, and then they'll be coming for your job. No, but I think it's great, and I definitely am looking forward to see what your future holds in this industry. Now, I'm going to be retiring when this is where math comes in. I told you, nope, math is hard. When I am probably 60, so I'm 42, so I got a while. But time flies. But anyway,
it does.
So I don't know if I'll be around to do your retirement or anything. So,
hopefully.
I don't know. I think we have an age difference, don't we? I think we have an age difference.
I'll say I'm 33.
Oh, okay. That's not so bad. I'll just show up in my cane and then give you your retirement plaque. I'm still kicking after this long. No, but Corina, thank you so much for sharing so much. This has been a great chat, an amazing chat. And congratulations on all your accomplishments, not even just in the 911 industry, but just being a young woman and a young mother and accomplishing a lot of, hurdles that life throws at you. And I'm sure there's way more than that than, you shared. And I would love to keep going and hear all that because I really enjoy sitting and chatting with you.
Well,
but
thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and say thank you. I appreciate it. You're an amazing headset hero and an inspiration to all. And thank you to everyone who has listened. Join us next week as we hear from another 911 leader in one of our communication centers in the Tarrant County 911 area. And be sure to give us a like and follow and, send me some comments. Let me know what you think of everything. And if you have questions, please send them and I can get those answered for you. And until next time, have a fabulous week.